Let me begin today's video by sharing an insightful parable that drives home just how much we take the present moment for granted. There was once a man who had achieved considerable professional success and material wealth over the course of his long life. Though approaching his golden years, he remained intensely driven, forever chasing loftier goals and ambitions. His mind whirred constantly, consumed with strategizing future business ventures, safeguarding his assets, and ensuring a robust legacy for his children and grandchildren. Rarely did he pause to actually enjoy the fruits of his decades of hard work. One night, this man experienced a vivid dream visitation. A brilliant yet calming light pervaded his sleeping vision, as a majestic, radiant being gradually took shape before him. The man's jaw dropped as he realized he stood face to face with what could only be described as God, the creator and source of all existence. "Do not be afraid," the divine presence spoke in a warm, loving tone. "I've come to you with a gift, a chance to reevaluate what truly matters. Here is a box containing all of your worldly belongings. It's time for you to move on to what comes next." The man blinked in stunned disbelief. "Move on? But I still have so many plans I need to see through. Mergers to negotiate, properties to develop, business meetings to lead. This can't be right." God raised a hand, politely cutting off his protests. "I'm afraid the circumstances are out of your control. This transition simply must happen. But have no fear. This box contains a comprehensive collection of all your belongings, which you may take with you." Reflexively, the man's eyes drifted down to the mysterious container, which seemed far too compact to house even a fraction of his sumptuous homes, cars, estates, and riches accumulated over a lifetime of striving. But if this divine emissary insisted it held the totality of his worldly possessions, it must be so. "All right then," he replied with a mix of uncertainty and resigned curiosity. "Please allow me to take an inventory of my belongings before departing." So saying, he reached down and unlatched the box, peering inside, only to find it utterly, inexplicably empty. Not a single item occupied the stark void of its interior. There must be some mistake," he sputtered, turning to the unfathomably brilliant visage of God with a sense of betrayal and dismay. "You said this contained everything I own." The radiant presence responded with a loving patience. "And it does. For you see, those material goods you worked over for decades on end, they were merely temporary loans harmonizing with the natural world for a short spell before dispersing back into the ecosystem. Those luxury automobiles, designer clothing, grand mansions, those all arose from precious resources ultimately belonging to the earth. Not a single possession was ever truly yours." The man opened his mouth to object, but God continued. "Even your professional accomplishments, those prestigious awards, patents, wealth-building business dealings, those talents you believe make you so exceptional, lent capacities, gifts meted out for a singular lifetime's usage, then returning to the universe's infinite well of creative potential." Realization began to bloom in the man's mind, but God kept unfurling the truth. Your fondest memories, nostalgic mementos from childhood and years gone by, those are simply artifacts of the temporal realm, shards of experiences that flowed through you before dissipating back into the ages like smoke rings. Panic gripped the man as God's words struck deeper. "What about my life's greatest joys, my family, my spouse, children, and all those beloved relatives who passed through my world? You can let me keep those precious souls with me, can't you?" He felt himself grasping at any shred of his former life to cling to. God shook their head once more. I'm afraid even the warm bodily vessels housing the spirits you held most dear were fleeting visitations birthed by your parents, merely keeping those souls company for a little while before they continued on their own journeys. Your marriage and family bonds weren't possessions, but heartfelt connections bound by your spiritual energies, harmonizing for a segment of the life you co-created. The man felt gutted, despair welling up. "Then what? What is truly mine to keep from my existence?" he stammered, tears streaming down his face. God's brilliant luminance flared with compassion. "The present moments, my child. Each instant you drew awareness into, each breath sourced from my infinite inspiration, each sight and sound and sensation you knew across the years, through the precious gift of incarnated perspective I bestowed. Those were the only things that ever truly belonged to you. For you cannot actually possess the impermanent physical world, but only participate in the eternal stream of present moment experiences I provide all beings." In that concentrated epiphany, the man's mind beheld the divine truth. His decades of future-focused striving, material grasping, and worldly preoccupations were all chasing after nothings that could never actually be owned. The only things of real, lasting value were the sacred moments of conscious living he'd neglected while trapped in the cycles of obsession, fear, and desiring. Drained of all tension and resistance, he let out a deep sigh of soul surrender. "Then I am ready to let go into what comes next, and finally embrace fully being here now." God smiled, and the luminous vision faded. This illustrates how so many of us spend our precious life force pursuing, grasping, and clinging to externals that can never fulfill us. We become entranced by societal illusions of status, wealth, and possessions being the paths to happiness. Or we fixate on ambition, chasing the mirage of some imagined future that'll ensure our sense of security and worth. All the while, the only thing that's ever real, the present moment, streams through our outstretched fingers like desert sands. The truth is, this ever-unfolding now is the only thing any of us indisputably has. Our worries about past regrets and future fears are self-created psychological stories, utterly disconnected from the revelatory simplicity of present-moment living. No amount of external achievements or acquisitions can provide the peace and fulfillment found by fully inhabiting this eternal moment, pervading every sacred breath and heartbeat. So how can we awaken into the transformative freedom of present-moment awareness? After lifetimes of conditioning into distraction and mind-wandering, begin by noting how insistently your thoughts continuously drift into reliving past memories or fantasizing about future scenarios when not consciously focused on something specific. This habitual pattern breeds negativity like anxiety, guilt, dread, restlessness, and regret, mental emotional toxins cut off from the rejuvenating stream of now. Anytime you find yourself ruminating on previous mistakes or misfortunes, gently reorient your mind to this moment, whatever you're currently engaged in. Were you beating yourself up for something that already occurred? That montage looping endlessly will only recreate suffering. Honor the lesson, make amends if possible, then let it go. If you're worrying about daunting future uncertainties, bring your awareness back to the simple task right here, right now. Trust that applying yourself fully to this present step will lead you ably from one rising occasion to the next. The other approach is to reframe your intentions for actions. Instead of constantly looking ahead to results, immerse yourself completely in the process itself. Rather than fixating on your destination while rushing through each stage, experience the richness of every footstep's heel-toe unfolding. Savor the textures, scents, and suchness of each task undertaken with whole-bodied mindfulness. Ask yourself this question: the thought I'm currently having, does it have any value to my task at hand? If the answer is no, let go of the thought immediately and focus on the action. Think of it as if you are required to perform and compete at a high-stake Olympic match. There would be no room for wandering thoughts, but rather 200% focus is required to perform at the highest level. As the Buddhist teacher Jack Cornfield eloquently expressed, in the end, just three things matter: how well we have lived, how well we have loved, and how well we have learned to let go. If our priorities centered on fully embracing each moment's revelations, rather than grasping at what's yet to manifest or already dissipated, our lives would unfurl in awe-struck blessing and surrendered trust. So let this parable be a wake-up call. Why postpone your awakening to the vibrant presence of life by perpetually dwelling in anticipations and memories? This lucid now is the only priceless treasure that was ever truly yours to experience. Stakes are high, yet the rich is immeasurable. By calendaring your priorities around inhabiting the eternal present, you'll discover soul stratosphere, accessed only by fully arriving the here and now. Thank you for joining us in today's journey. If you find this useful, consider sharing to those who may benefit. Until next time.